What's going on, guys? So today a new game was announced that is really making waves on social media. It's over on Steam, on YouTube, all over Twitter, and their Discord is just blowing up out of nowhere. And it's weird because it kind of flew under the radar for a long time. I'd been followed by a couple of members of their development team for a bit, but we didn't know exactly what the project was or what it entailed until this trailer dropped today. The game is called Gray Zone Warfare. It's being developed by a studio called Mad Finger Games. It's a little weird because these guys in the past have really only focused on making mobile games. This is their first soiree, as it were, into PC gaming. And to say that the project is ambitious would be an understatement. And while the entire internet has already covered this game, I think it's worthwhile mentioning on the channel because it's right up my alley. It certainly qualifies in the category of, dream game design ideas. And I think I can offer some unique perspective on what we might expect or what we can hope to look forward to in Gray Zone Warfare. So let's dive in. Some of their initial reading material describes the game as a tactical FPS focused on realism. They encourage the user to embrace the challenge of a tactical FPS, customize weapons with real ballistics. Every move matters. Your gear and progress are at stake. It also says that there's a mature, gloomy atmosphere where they kind of describe exactly what the game's title insinuates, that you're operating in this moral and ethical gray zone, a no man's land between good and evil. And then they go into elaborate about that open world, expansive setting. They describe the environment as being up to 42 kilometers squared of a fictional Southeast Asian country inspired by the stunning landscapes of Laos. So we're going into the jungles, my dudes. Utilize explorable landing zones and helicopters to move through a persistent world that keeps on living even when you're not playing. The developers say that weapon mechanics and realism in that regard is a main focus. They say you can craft your ideal weapon, modify, swap, or add parts for versatile performance in any situation. They've also added an advanced simulation of external and terminal ballistics, ensuring accuracy by using real-world data for ammunition and protective materials. That would be a huge step. Not a lot of games, not a lot of simulations for that matter, go so far as to actually attempt to correctly model external and terminal ballistics. External ballistics, of course, that's just describing the environmental factors that impact a round after it leaves a barrel. Every time, once the round actually leaves the barrel, it's now being affected by external ballistics. Terminal ballistics, that's the performance of the round once it reaches its target. It's what it does to the body or whatever materials it impacts. And they also seem to be insinuating here that the protective materials will also be modeled, so we can perhaps then expect different levels of armor, whether that be just, typical soft materials or the appropriate requisite levels of body armor, be that 3 alpha, 4 plus, whatever. There's a unique health system where injuries actually impact perception and performance. You can identify the injury and the solution in order to survive and help your teammates survive. Injuries encompass bruises, bleeding wounds, broken bones, damaged organs, and pain. And players also need to manage energy and hydration. So this is really interesting. We've seen, different games take on medical systems differently. Operating in the jungles of a Laos equivalent fictional world is going to bring with it a whole host of health and physical problems, particularly with respect to prolonged casualty care. If you get shot in the jungle and you don't have a way out, treating those wounds is difficult, not only from the sense of like a March E sequence doing traditional tactical combat casualty care, but then caring for that casualty in that environment for an extended period of time. You're now having to lean hard on fluid intake, antibiotics, and keeping that wound clean and keeping that patient stable despite those conditions. It'll be interesting to see how that impacts the game play. And now they also describe the game as visually stunning, and I think that's pretty clear as you guys are seeing in this trailer. It is important to note that this game is being developed on Unreal Engine 5. It's the first tactical shooter really to be announced on Unreal Engine 5. And, keep in mind that means this thing is going to be a beast to run, very likely. We don't have any sort of system requirements yet. It's supposed to come out sometime in 2024, but I would be ready to upgrade your rig if you're going all in on Gray Zone Warfare. Developers say that you can play with your friends. You can join one of 3 factions and engage in challenging missions against other human operators and AI-controlled enemies. So that kind of harkens back to that kind of Division style showdown where you can choose to engage in PvP or PvE, and you can do it in one of 3 factions with your homies. You have slower paced exploration, which allows for more planning, which is key. You can work together, play together, and every move counts. I like this a lot. It doesn't add that artificial time cap that you experience in a lot of extraction shooters and survival shooters, and instead you have this big open world where you can really take the time to play it slowly. You don't feel so challenged by an artificial time limit, and instead you're limited by your own creativity, imagination, patience, and how you can apply tactics to become successful. All right, I've had the trailer looping in the background here. I want to go through it with you guys and take a look at some of the equipment, some of the things that we're seeing, some of the things that come to mind for me as I look at this with my background and my perspective. And just keep in mind that this game is something that I'm very excited about because it really hits some things that I've always wanted in a tactical shooter, but I've never seen offered in a tactical shooter. We played a lot of we played a lot of Wildlands not too long ago. And the whole time I was playing it, I was just wishing for a more hardcore shooter experience where I could play with my friends and against other players from the first person perspective. And this seems to be looking to offer exactly that. But let's go ahead and dive into the trailer. So the first thing we see here in this first scene is what appears to be an MH6 Little Bird bringing in at least 2, maybe 4 if there's operators on the other side of the skids into this fight. And this is a typically configured Little Bird. I'm not an aviator, but just looking at it, looks normal. That little cross thing you see on the back, that's a sat antenna. It's an omnidirectional satellite antenna. And the operators here, we've got one guy in a ball cap. I think everyone's wearing multicam. Looks like this dude has kind of like a retro AR with a carry handle, more modern rig next to him. And we see differences in kit here too. Different size backpacks. One guy has ballistic protection on his head. The other guy doesn't. They both have over-the-ear electronic ear protection. I think we'll get a better look at kits here in a second. And forgive me for, like, again, using my media player to show you guys this. I think it's just the fastest and easiest way to go through and call out things as I see them. So it's worth going back and just looking at this environment. Just look at this big wide open shot of Laos. I think the environment's gorgeous. It really speaks to the fidelity that the Unreal Engine 5 is able to achieve. I'm making the assumption that this is all in-engine footage that has been captured. We do see gameplay in this footage. It's about a minute long, but just look at the variety of terrain here. You've got some rice paddies and flooded fields off to the top right. You've got more thick vegetation in the foreground. You've got some urban sprawl off to the left. Gives you a sense of the kind of cover and concealment that's going to be available, as well as the variety of terrain that you're going to be fighting in. And when I think of like going into a game and being able to just like stalk and move slowly and hang out with my friends in this kind of very immersive kind of world, this is just, it's the perfect environment for it. If I was going to build this game, this is probably the environment, that I would want to set it in. All right, first close-up look at kit. The guy that we're looking at right here, can't tell what his lower is, but it looks like he has a Geisley URGI upper, kind of like that classic URGI look, and you can see where it connects to the upper receiver. Can't tell what kind of can he's got, and he's got an ACOG over here. The guy next to him seems to be wearing a Mitch or equivalent with Peltors underneath, so not a high-cut helmet, but instead provides that over-the-ear protection plus the Peltor Comtax. Ballistic eye protection as well. He's got a NVG shroud on his helmet. No NVGs mounted. And then he's got a push-to-talk. And that looks like a Peltor branded push-to-talk. Interesting here, though, we don't see the cable come down from those Peltors into that PTT. So he's not talking on the radio, at least with that PTT at this point. And that could just be an oversight. Also, look down here. He's got a carry handle and very vibey ACOG mounted on top of the carry handle, which I appreciate. That's a good look. That terrain looks gorgeous. Let's keep it going here. All right, so you get the 5 seconds to touchdown call. Probably, 10, typically you get 10, 6, 3, and 1 if you're, doing an air assault. 10 minutes, 6 minutes, 3 minutes, and 1 minute. You wouldn't get a 5-second countdown, especially when it's this clear, broad daylight. But we won't hold it against him. Back here, it looks like a Ronin tactical belt. He's got an aircraft safety tether coming off as well. So they just got off an aircraft. It's interesting to see that they actually thought through and had an aircraft safety tether added to the character model as well. I can't ID this back panel or this backpack. You guys can jump in and let me know. But the kit overall looks really good. Looks like this guy's got a multicam pattern. It looks like the players who perspective that we are looking at also has a multicam pattern. Interesting cummerbund here as well. That might be an AVS cummerbund. Might be. Hard to tell. We go back, and you guys have to forgive me, but I'm really interested in just going frame by frame and seeing everything that I catch. All right, so we've switched perspectives here. to a different shooter because we have a new optic on this gun, and this right here looks like an Aimpoint T1 on a riser, if I had to guess, so a red dot sight. And then dude in a boonie cap over here, can't see what guns these guys have, but look at this vegetation, look at the lighting. Imagine operating in this environment, especially PvP. This is going to get scary and it's going to get fun, and just think of how absolutely treacherous this environment will be with bush Wookiees hanging out with freaking sniper rifles, just ruining your day while you're trying to get missions done. I love that. That's good. I love that. And that is indeed a Geisley. That is indeed an Aimpoint T1 red dot sight. And that looks like a Colt lower. So this is very much like a U.S. government, URGI, like SOCOM standard rifle. And it looks like everyone here is using that same URGI. This one might be a shorty. Those look like full 14.5 rifles. This dude has an ACOG. Can't see what this guy has. Kimblite bundle on the back of this guy. He has a Mystery Ranch backpack. That is a straight up Mystery Ranch branded backpack. And this is also, of note, an Aimpoint branded optic. So I don't know if they're just sending it or if they've got permission to use this stuff. But they're just sending it. And let me move my stupid face out of the way so you guys can see this real quick. So yeah, Colt lower, and that is a Colt branded lower so far as I can tell. So I'm seeing like very, very authentic gear here. And then we've got green tip ammunition in a Magpul PMag. And look at how worn the weapon model is as well. I mean, that looks just stunning. It looks absolutely stunning. Can't tell what holster. That looks like I think that's a Glock in that holster. I can't tell what holster it is. That might be a Ragnarok. Like, is that a T-Rex Arms Ragnarok? It could be. Can't see what backpack this dude got on, but like, again, the environment remains stunning. A2 bird cage on this guy, so he doesn't have a suppressor because he's got a bird cage. That is interesting. I'd be curious to see if there was a muzzle device that was designed to accept a suppressor, and that is required to mount a suppressor. So that'd be interesting to see as well. The attention to detail, even on these rounds, the fact that they actually have green tip is pretty cool. All right. The fact that there's also an animation to check your mag, also very cool. Internal environments look incredible. Look at the shadows, the lighting, just the amount of detail. Phenomenal. Just gorgeous. Unreal 5, dude. Very Tarkov-esque inventory system. And we're also here getting a much better look at some of this gear. So we have gauze here, so medical equipment. We've got food. He's got a boonie cap, iPro, mask. He's rocking that Geisley. We're also down here seeing there's an encumbrance system, so weight, intoxication. That's interesting. So it makes me think there's either booze in the game or drugs in the game. Yeah, there's either booze in the game, drugs in the game, or narcotics that you can use for as part of the health system that could cause you to become intoxicated. So that's really interesting. Glock 17 K-bar, it is a JPC, so that was that cummerbund we saw earlier. So I was right in that it was a Cry, but it's a JPC 2.0, and he does have Comtacs from Peltor. PMags, he's got a cat tourniquet, it looks like, some combat gauze, called a bandage, that's a combat gauze wrapper, meals ready to eat, surgical kit, very interesting, be very curious to see how that's applied in game. An energy drink, an R40, I'm guessing this is like a Tarkov-esque, if you die you just don't lose whatever's in here kind of kit. Looks like a Pelican case. And then pockets. So cool inventory system. And we learn a lot about the way that the game is designed just from looking at the inventory system and what kind of objects that people can carry with them. Let's keep it going. No entry, nuclear fallout, minefield, don't know. I will say that I haven't seen any evidence of the paranormal in this game, which is very good news to me. I know some guys are like super into all the SCP stuff and horror games. I don't hate that stuff, but I just want I want a tactical open world shooter that is just unforgiving and brutal, and I hope that that's what we've got here. Lots more Geisleys, more Mystery Ranch backpacks. We see barricaded off gate here, no change in this weapon loadout. New weapon system here. I don't know what optic is this. Someone can help me identify it. This might be a loopholed hollow equivalent. Of note here, no front sight posts, no attachments, no light, no laser, no suppressor on this gun. So this is a naked gun with a hollow equivalent on it. Down here we see an off brand, maybe backpack. Can't tell exactly what that is. And I'm suspecting that these are AI, just by the way that they're moving. But you will see in this trailer, the AI does seem to move pretty good. But I'm really, really interested to see some PvP gameplay. Okay, so that's the first time we've seen shooting. Remember, this is extremely early alpha gameplay, and dialing in shooting mechanics for a first-person shooter is one of the most important things a development studio needs to do in designing it, and also one of the most difficult things that they'll do. Notice that when the weapon recoils, you get stock movement in your shoulder, which is not realistic because you would have that stock trapped in your shoulder. But what I appreciate about it is it doesn't impact your aim like some other games that we've seen recently. Instead, the stock articulates in the shoulder, which is weird, but the red dot sight, your point of aim, stays centered. There is some recoil vertically and horizontally, but you don't see the point of aim really bouncing around in unpredictable ways, which I appreciate. Also notice that when we look down that aim point T1 right here, so when we look down that aim point T1, you see the tube inside of it. On a red dot sight, that's typically not the case. And so I suspect that that'll probably get another pass before the game launches, 6 months to a year from now, whenever they do finally come into early access or full release. But right now you can still see the tube. It's almost like you're looking down the sight backwards. But I suspect that that's going to get touched up on future passes. Is that guy wearing tiger stripe camo? He might have been wearing tiger stripe camo, which is very vibey, especially in this environment. Again, we're seeing like this urban sprawl, and look at these mountains behind, like in the deep terrain back there. That's gorgeous. Not because this is a 42 kilometer square open world, I assume you can get up there. It said you'd have helicopter landing zone opportunities, which to me means I should be able to take my helicopter up there, which would be kind of sweet. And I'm also curious to just know how much of that 42 square kilometers you can really explore. Time to kill on AI seems to be really, really quick. This is the first time we've seen irons. This is off the carry handle from one of those ARs. They've got the rear peep sight, which is pretty cool. And then notice that in the depth of field blur, they've chosen to blur your rear sight aperture. They have a very crisp front sight post, which, real world shooting, that would definitely be blurry because you're going to maintain target focus. In a computer game, it makes sense because you need it as a reference point of aim. But I do appreciate that. And the fact that they've added that depth of field blur to the near aim point, your rear sight equivalent, or even your rear sight optic, or your optic, makes a lot of sense. I think it looks natural, and it's a good way to compromise between that target focus that we would expect from real world shooting while still maintaining that crisp either red dot itself or front sight post so you can aim in your computer game. We're also seeing a variety of NPCs here. They're all dressed a little bit differently, and then notice that the time to kill is pretty damn quick. We don't know what the player time to kill is yet, but at least for AI, seems to be 1 to 2 rounds. I would assume 1 round to the head would do it here. All right, first time we've seen a bleeding mechanic. We heard the dude's, call out in pain. He seems to be wrapping his arm, and that is in fact a cat tourniquet as best I can tell. So he has successfully wrapped it around his arm. He's pulling the slack out of it. I'll be curious to see if he operates that windlass or if that's been animated yet. And then we look over here. That looks like those may be Loa boots. I think those are Loas. Either Loas or Solomon's. And he's wearing Cry G3 combat pants, best I can tell. And this guy, rolled sleeves, multicam pattern. Very dope. I want to see if he spins this windlass. All right, they cut away from it beforehand. These are other painkillers, antibiotics, Pepto, who knows? But there's pills. And maybe that narcotics measurement we saw earlier on the inventory screen is affected by in-game medication. Or antibiotics. If you're in the jungle for a long time and you're popping antibiotics because you have a wound, because you're out there for a long time and there's no time constraint like there is in other, PvE extraction shooters, that would be pretty cool if you had to scrounge for narcotics and or scrounge for antibiotics and maintain that regimen. Hydrate water. This 100% looks like a MRE, main ration meal. And look at that world. Gosh darn, man. All right, first time we've seen the Glock. That is 100% a Glock. Not factory irons, though. And very cool. Stealthy. You can hear him breathing heavy. You can hear the heart pounding in the background. Love the attention to detail in some of these environmentals, from the duffel bags to the decorations on the walls, the kicked over trash can, and then the AI patrolling past. very cool that there's like this kind of stealth sneak mechanic, which you would expect to have in a dense jungle environment or even an urban environment. And I think adds a lot to the quality of the gameplay if you're able to do things like sneak around by yourself and hunker down in a hide site like this. All right, we're running. Earlier we saw the weapons down and low. Now we're seeing that same URGI up. We're also seeing now an AFG foregrip that looks like a Magpul AFG foregrip. And this is a one-handed carry, gun up. Makes me hopeful that there's different weapon positions so that we can control our muzzle orientation and have more control over the firearm without it becoming so clunky that it's cumbersome to manipulate, which is always the challenge. More first-person stuff. We've already seen that gun. Water tower in the background here. Ooh, that guy got clapped. Okay, that's a Mark 18, my friends. That is a freaking Mark 18. So check this out. Straight up, that is a Colt lower with an aim point on a riser with a freaking Riz 2 Mark 18 upper and an A2 birdcage flash hider. That is an empty PMag here. It looks, look at this detail. So you have an empty PMag. We can assume that we're a bolt lock. And I'm now looking just at the way that the weapons are animated. I'm going to listen here. I want to hear if that last round, you can actually hear the last round hold open. I did not hear a difference in that last round. That would be a crazy detail. All right, so mag comes out. Look at that. You even got a little bit of a flare when he went to insert that mag. His finger is off the trigger. Gun is still on semi. You could debate it. I think reloading on semi in combat when you're black on ammo and in contact is perfectly fine. A legit Colt lower. Look at the angle on that PMag. So the care that went into angling that PMag slightly off to write it into that flared magwell of that Colt lower. Freaking gorgeous. He has a standard charging handle, standard mil-spec trigger, so no upgrades on the internals that we can see from here anyway. And if you look really closely, I needed to follow up with the developers on this, but it looks to me like that bolt catch is elevated as if it is indeed in last round hold open, and they have taken the care to animate that bolt catch in such a way as that it's reflecting that it is out and ready to be pressed once this mag is seated. Okay. Oh, look, is that a new backpack? I don't think we've seen that one before. Can't tell. We may have seen that one already. Same holster, booting cap, URGI, ACOG. Yeah, we already saw all that. Okay. Mag goes in. We didn't see him depress the bolt catch, unfortunately. Another Mystery Ranch bag here. He's got an EOTech. First time we've seen an EOTech, I believe. That's an EOTech. Tough to say from this distance, but I think he's got an EOTech EXPS 2 or 3 on that rifle. Drop-like holster. Very cringe, but forgivable, but still cringe. Brass coming out. It seems that like the ejection pattern looks really, really good. That is a Mark 18. Oh, that's a Riz 2 handguard with a 14.5 inch barrel, and that is indeed an EXPS 3 with a PMag. Freaking cool. So he's running a Riz 2 with a long barrel. Kind of gross. Kind of a vibe too. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Okay, guns up, and he's at a trot, so we're seeing some ability to manipulate the speed at which the character moves. Also, the first time we've seen light laser. Can't tell which that is. Someone give me an ID on that guy. We're seeing I think that's still a T1, but no riser now. Yep, new plate carry over here. Still aircraft safety tether, battle belt. Oh, man. Good trailer. Minute, a lot of information in there, guys. Ton of information. There's a couple other things I want to show you real quick. All right, so the other two things I want to show you very quickly, they've got some GIFs and some other information embedded over on their Discord channel. I'll link the Steam webpage or the Steam store page as well as their Discord down below. Definitely encourage you guys to go wishlist it if this is something you're interested in. This GIF showcases the customizable nature of the weapons. And if we watch it, on loop here for a second, you see he's taken a Shorty Colt Classic, turned it into a URGI. He's able to swap out the upper, the lower, the butt stock. Ton of different customization options here. So it looks like butt stock customization confirmed, optic customization confirmed, attachment customization confirmed, upper customization confirmed, put on carry handles, and who knows what other sort of internals. I'm curious to see if stuff like, charging handle, bolt carrier group, all that sort of stuff, like the internals that we don't usually get to mess with in games. I'll be very curious to see if that is customizable in this game. And the other one I want to show you guys was this one, and that is the medical system. Here you can see that this guy's opening up a surgical kit. He's taking out shears, wrapping himself in a bandage. That is a splint. That's the first time I've seen like a legit rigid splint used in a game, and the animation is done very well. That rigid splint, typically you're gonna have to fold it over itself to achieve the level of rigidity necessary to splint an open fracture or closed fracture as it lies. So very interesting that they went through the trouble to get that animated correctly, and they've got an IV bag there as well. It looked like that was fresh whole blood in that IV bag. The procedures there for conducting a transfusion, not necessarily on point, but the fact that they're even thinking about that at this juncture in the game is very impressive. So I am curious, guys, what do you think about Gray Zone Warfare? And are they going to pull it off? I would say that I'm excited. I'm apprehensive. It is a hell of a launch. It looks very promising, but it's also a very ambitious project from a team that is unproven in the PC arena. What I would say is that they are absolute professionals. Their head of communications reached out to me right away and provided me with a ton of information so that I can bring all of this to you guys. And, we jumped on a call, and he was extremely professional. Over in their Discord, it is extremely well organized. They've got some cash and some backing and a hell of a lot of employees, and they are hiring right now. So I am under the impression, based off what I've seen, that they are able to achieve what they have set out to achieve. They are passionate about this project. I am excited to see where it goes, and I think that this could be a genre redefining game if they are able to pull it off. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys did enjoy the video. I am Controlled Pairs. This has been Gray Zone Warfare, and I'll see you guys in the next one.